Hey, it's Craig Syracusa, and welcome to another episode of Walk in Faith, the show where we go beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might know them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do we know what motivates them? Do we know what inspires them? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Hey, it's Craig Syracusa from Walk in Faith, and we are in Nashville, Tennessee on the red carpet waiting for I Can Only Imagine. Stay tuned for another episode of Walk in Faith. So after each project, what do you usually walk away with? Like, what did you walk away with after doing this film?
Renewed hope, renewed sense of purpose. So that started it, and then I started filming it. And the director, Andy, and John, they're both unbelievable, but Andy really saw that vision in me, and we had talked about it. And I've never ever had a director tell me that I was doing the right thing by keeping to my morals and sticking to my guns, and that was part of my purpose. And so just having him confirm that to me every day was, I can't even put into words the feeling of relief. And just like when I went in for the meeting with them, when I left, we literally only talked about God the whole time. I didn't say one line. And I left and I said to my mom, Mom, I don't care if I don't get it, because I'm just so happy and relieved to know that there are other people in the industry like me trying to do what I'm trying to do. And so I just was so blessed by that, and then getting to physically work with them and continually having that ministry into my heart while we were filming was unbelievable. I never in a million years dreamed that God would bring my faith and my craft together in one, and He did. And it's just unbelievable. I'm in amazement.
What was it like to work on a Christian film? I mean, you come from Broadway. That's your roots, right?
Yeah. I would say my roots are Christian films. You know, my father, who's right behind me, is a minister. I grew up in church. That's home for me. So doing a Christian film has been one of the coolest experiences. It's kind of like a coming home party for me. You know, spending time in Chicago and New York doing Broadway and stuff like that has been amazing. But this has been a real life changer for me, so I'm happy to be here.
And after you do a project, whether it's a character or you do a film, do you sit and reflect and ask yourself, like, why did God give me this opportunity, or what do you walk away with after doing a project like this?
I think you have to. You know, I certainly don't. I believe things happen for a reason. You know, and so whether it's good things or bad things, you really have to sit back and reflect. And why is this happening? And this was an easy one for me. You know what I mean? When this project came across my desk, if you will, it was a no-brainer to go for it. So, I've had a little bit of time to sit back and reflect about what a cool experience this was, and I'm excited to celebrate tonight.
What do you hope people walk away with after watching this film?
You know that redemption is possible regardless of where you're at. You know, it doesn't matter what you've done or where you're at or how bad you think you are. Like, redemption's for everybody, and I think a lot of people get to the place in their life where they just don't feel like that, they can turn a corner and they can repent and they can, change their life. And Bart says it better than I do, but he watched God change his dad from a monster into a guy he wanted to become. And so that's what we hope, is people really walk out of here thinking about their own lives, reach out to people that, maybe they need to heal some relationships, and I think it's going to be powerful, and I think it's going to do some of that.
When you talk about the song I Can Only Imagine, people talk about the time that they needed it, and it was a rush of hope. And I think when we looked into Bart Millard's story with MercyMe, you dig into his story and the reconciliation between him and his father, it has that same quality, a rush of hope. So I think right now in our country, we really, really need it. And so my hope is that people find that message of hope and redemption and forgiveness in this film, and that it really just affects communities.
I was listening to Baby Baby in the hotel on the way here, just so you know. I swear to God, I'll show you my iTunes. But what's your motivation, or what inspires you when you write music or perform?
When I listen to music, I want to be moved. That's it. So when I'm writing, I just want to write something that's moving. And you have to enter that door different ways, but I don't want to be bored. I don't want to say the same thing the same way. And I tell you, that gets more and more challenging as time goes on. So, but I want to be moved, and I hope that what moves me moves somebody else, either to dance or cry or laugh. Yeah.
Do you think music has the ability to connect people regardless of faith, regardless of cultural differences? Do you think we can unite through music?
I really do. I think music has the ability to, open up a part of your soul that nothing else can touch. Music is a time machine. It can take you back to high school. It can take you to your wedding day. It can take you to the day your kid was born. Even the first couple notes of a song can do that. And so I think music has the ability to cross racial lines, to cross religious lines, and just unite us. And luckily, that song is a song that I can only imagine is a song that really does provide people with hope. You get a rush of hope when you listen to that song. It's reached out to Christian, to country, to pop. And all over the world. So, absolutely.
I know this for a fact. Music does things to people. And if anything speaks to me more than anything is music.
Years ago, my husband was on a recording session, and Guy Clark, a great songwriter who has passed away, had written a song about his dad, and it was called The Randall Knife. And when there was a break in that recording session, and it was all about how his father had died, and he had stolen his father's knife when he was a kid and broken the tip off of it. Anyway, it's a story song. When there was a break in the studio day, all of those young musicians were lined up for the payphone to call their dads. It was the same thing.
Amazing,
it was just
right?
It's
amazing how God works.
Is this your first Christian film, or have you worked on other Christian films throughout your career?
This is my first Christian film to come out. I did another one last year as well, but it hasn't come out yet. So it's my first time promoting a faith-based film, and I'm so proud of it. I actually was going to quit this time last year, and I wasn't going to act anymore, and God totally answered my prayer and gave me this movie, and it just was so God, and I'm so overwhelmed. I keep crying, but it's unbelievable. I'm overwhelmed with it, really.
Why were you going to quit the business?
Well, I've been doing it since I was 3 years old, and I love it. It's my only thing I've really known. And I, at my age now, teenager, you get these parts and scripts that come your way that are just not edifying and nothing that you could be proud of. And so I really struggled with that, and I was like, God, I don't understand. You've given me this gift, but how can I possibly use it here in this industry, because everything is so dirty and things that would just cause such shame. And so I really didn't think God wanted it for me anymore, and so I came to this moment where I just literally cried my eyes out and was like, God, I don't understand. Is this not what you have for me anymore? And I said, God, if I'm still meant to be here, send me something that would edify you. And God literally did that the next day. And so I just am beyond overwhelmed and thankful for it. I will never ever forget this film, because it literally was like a breath of fresh air in my lungs for me to keep going and keep doing what God called me to do. And I just literally this time last year was like walking away, and then to be here, I just keep crying.
You just gave me the chills, because I totally understand that. You said it, but do you believe that we're all, born with a purpose, like God places something in our hearts and we're supposed to fulfill that dream or destiny?
I do. I believe that we are all designed. One of my favorite scriptures is Psalms 139. That God knit us together in the womb. He put something in you that's not in me for your purpose, and vice versa. And I do believe that God gives each of us a specific platform to reach certain people. There's people that I will come in contact with that someone like my mom maybe won't, and vice versa. So I think that we have to just pursue that calling wholeheartedly. And the lesson that I learned that was hard to learn is completely fall in love with God. And when you do that, God will show you who you are. And He did that for me. I was someone last year that was broken, had no purpose, my dream diminished, and literally no way of doing what I thought I had been asked. And I literally laid it before God and I let it die. And I was like, I love you more than I love this. And then God did this. I'm beyond in shock and amazed. And to be a song, that I literally grew up with in my Christian walk, listening to and hanging on to and giving me hope, to take my focus off of the now and think of the then, and just to see it and the fruition of it, it's been unbelievable.
Do you think we're all born with a purpose?
Absolutely. I think we all have God-given talents and gifts, and I think it's important for parents to try to help foster their kids in a way for them to figure out what those gifts are, and then push them in those directions. And and let them really take the time to, find out what they're kind of tilted towards. Personality exams and things like that can really show a kid, kind of what's inside them, and then, find them schooling and just different life experiences with internships and things like that to expose them to different fields, different areas in a field that maybe they're tilted towards, and then they'll find their way.
What did you think about when you first heard the song? What was your first impression? What went through your mind?
I thought the song was just like wonderful. Like it was like down low. I thought it was a really cool, interesting song.
And what's your favorite music? What do you listen to now?
That would be a tie between I kind of like pop music, and I kind of like slow and kind of sometimes rap.
Well, thanks. Have a great night. Nice meeting you.
That was a long time ago when I first heard it. But I just, the song is so compelling. I didn't know the story of Bart's dad until I saw the film. And I've toured with Bart, but he just was not very forthcoming about that part of his life. So to me, tonight, the big story is Bart telling his story. And of course, Dennis Quaid does such a great job portraying his dad. But I will tell you, I feel like the energy of all of our lives, it does inform and enrich our work. And I feel like we all felt that story. It's like somebody giving you a piece of advice that they have learned through a really hard lesson. You might only hear the words, but somewhere in there, it's like something in them reaches into you. And I feel like the song had that momentum because of where it came from. It was real.
One thing that I noticed with the film that I walked away with is a lot of films, especially Hollywood films, you don't really see that relationship. Like back in the day when we were younger, it wasn't really accepted for a father to show love and affection. It wasn't macho. But to see this in the movie, it touched me. And like you said, I overheard you say how it affected you and your father and your grandfather. When you first heard the song, what was the emotion that went through you?
My father, it almost, I cried partway through this dang thing because my dad had a horrible, it wasn't a good relationship with my grandfather, and my dad he kind of broke that cycle. He was a good dad to me, but it's like when I was, I watched it more for kind of a thankfulness of what I had, but also a little bit of sorrow for what my dad didn't have. Jose here, he's had a tough relationship with his father.
We've reconnected, and actually we're going to go see this movie together after it comes out, and it's a powerful message.
Yeah, I think the father-son element and, two incredible performances by J. Michael Finley and by Dennis Quaid, and the father-son elements is so strong in this story that especially men, when they watch it, it hits that nerve, man. And I think that it really does kind of cause you to look at yourself, and it's an entertaining film, but it's got that element that really connects with people on a broad scale.
And you don't always see that. Usually, like when they depict men and their relationships with their fathers, it's a little bit different. Usually, that macho persona where you don't really show love and affection.
Right.
And to see this in a film, you sort of broke the mold with this film.
Yeah, for whatever reason, Bart was very, very vulnerable with his story with us, and so we try to figure out what makes him tick. And so it's a very masculine story, but it's also a very emotional story. And I think those things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
I think to see the real gritty stories of repentance, forgiveness, and coming together right now is so real and really needed at the same time. So I think our prayer tonight is that this movie just gets into everybody's heart.
Was the preparation or the emotional preparation different from, say, Broadway to a film like this?
Yeah, I would say it's a little different. I mean, it's basically the same thing, but I was very lucky to have Bart here and to have some of the other characters in the film that are here in real life to be able to bounce things off of. There's some things that I couldn't talk to Bart about because it's too close to home, so I go to Brickell or somebody else and ask the other guys in the band. But I was very, very lucky. So to get ready for this emotionally and all that, I had a lot of tools that I had access to, and it really helped me out to do that.
Just one last thing. In the film, you let Bart sing the song. Why did you do that? What sort of compelled you to do that?
I knew that song belonged to him. And the circumstances changed. When I first heard the song and they were excited that I was going to do it, And I did have a platform that they didn't have. But, you know, I would have been a fool to not let the writer of that song sing it. To me, it was just a no-brainer.
So inspiring. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. So far, it's been nice talking to you. But I really enjoyed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. No, but I really love the film. I know everybody says the same thing. But what I wasn't fond of Arthur in the beginning of the film. I don't think many people were.
No.
And it wasn't until the transition, till God sort of entered his heart, and then I really started to feel for the character. How do you prepare for that role? Like, because it was your emotional connection that really drew me to the character towards the end.
Well,
how do you prepare for that?
Arthur did not like Arthur. That's for sure. Because nobody behaves like Arthur unless he inside is living hell inside, really. You know, he's tortured. He was a tortured soul. Tried to tell himself that it was because of his, he had dreams he was going to be a football player, and maybe he got injured in this or that, or, bad luck and didn't make it. So that makes him a better person, But who knows what was going to happen with that? He was an abuser, really. He abused abused Bart as a boy, and well into his teen years as well. He made him feel bad about himself as well. He passed that thing that he had, was trying to pass it on to him, and there's no excuse for that. Mentally, emotionally, physically. And Arthur got cancer. With that, you start to examine your life, But Arthur started to have a spiritual awakening because of all this self-examination. And, there you are, facing your maker. And, this led him to prayer. And from there, because you cannot lie to yourself in prayer. You've already done that. And he started to have a relationship with God. And he wanted to have a relationship with with Bart. And Bart was going to have none of it, because he'd been gone, he was long gone. It just, he didn't trust his father for 2 nickels even. Over time, Bart was seeing a change in his dad. It didn't happen just as it did in just one visit, as it is in the film. But it's a film. You have to tell the story, and it's true. It's true in spirit, But over time, he started to have a relationship that grew and grew, and that relationship was through Jesus Christ, and started to grow in that. And at the end of his life, Arthur and Bart had the most beautiful, loving relationship, and Arthur gave Bart the gift of not having to carry around the weight of that, the resentment of being an abused kid, and that's freedom.
I agree.
He truly forgave his father, and Arthur forgave himself. God had already forgiven him, I'm sure, but it's hard to forgive yourself.
And that line is in the movie, right? We have to forgive ourselves in order for God to forgive us.
Yeah.
But now, because it was, like you said, Arthur was such a powerful character. But what did you draw from personally to sort of connect with that character?
Everybody has something broken in their life, has been through something like that, And it's really like the song. Like, I can only imagine, it hits you in a place where you don't have words. That's what. And the reason that song was so popular and so big is that everyone listening to it takes it personally in something in their life. And that's what I took away from the movie and from Arthur.
I think most people did too. I mean, first time I heard that song, I had to process it a little bit, and it made me think about my own life and my relationship with my father, and it made me reflect. And I think a lot of people will also, take that song, and a lot of us didn't have great relationships with our parents growing up.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard to admit that. And in order for us to grow and break the chain or break the cycle, we
Right.
need to admit that and be able to move forward.
Be able to move on with it. I mean, I had a great relationship with my dad, but still, I mean, as good as it was, I think all sons have that. There's a hole that just, it's hard to fill.
Yeah.
And you compare yourself with them, and you're imparted self-esteem, the way you feel about yourself.
You're right.
In contrast or in comparison to your own father.
Yeah, and like I was saying yesterday to someone, back then our parents to show love and affection wasn't always, the cool thing. It wasn't the macho thing to do.
Yeah, my dad did.
Your dad did?
Yeah, in the 50s and 60s.
Really?
He was very hands-on. What I was very proud about my dad is my dad had an abusive father.
Wow.
Call it the times that they were or whatever it was. But, he used to get the back of the hand and thing. And Dad, he was in the Merchant Marines. He'd be gone. And but he had that. Be ignored, whatever. And my dad broke that.
That's great.
Himself. And when he became a dad, I guess he, treated us like the way he wanted to be treated when he was a son. And I'm very proud of him for that.
That's great. And then you have kids, obviously, so you obviously broke that cycle, which was your grandfather.
I hope I grew it. I think hopefully I did.
Yeah.
No, but,
I like to think too, because of my relationship, I overcompensate with my son. I give him so much love and affection because I want to make sure that I broke that cycle and then it continues, and he doesn't have resentment,
right.
on the way I, my relationship with him.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And then we have other problems.
Oh yeah, that's something else.
Because being a dad is
It's
never
always
without. Parental guilt just never goes away. It's here.
But now let me ask you, because when I was a kid, so I used to listen to music. Music has always been a part of my life. I used to listen to music when I did chores. And I think about those times, Michael Jackson was who I listened to as a kid. What did you listen to when you were a kid that sort of takes you back to that time when you're with your family or, your relatives? Is there a song that stands out?
Well, yeah, songs really are, the journals of our lives, because you hear a song and it'll take you right back to that day, the smells and everything else, and the feeling that you had, It's incredible, and it's a lot of different songs, grew into different times.
Different times of your life.
I grew up with, Hank Williams and Eddie Arnold, Elvis, but, the Beatles came along.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. What about music? Do you think it has the ability to sort of unite people, regardless of faith or cultural differences? Do you think it could sort of bring us all together?
Well, music is vibration, and the whole universe is really a vibration. It's God's creation. And so, yeah, of course it does, because music is the language of God, because it's not the words, it's not even the notes or the melody of it, it's the vibration that hits you, hits all of us in a place when it's harmonic, that hits you in a place without words.
Like the song.
That it hits you in a place you have no words for.
I agree. Last question before they kick me out. Watching that movie, right? I believe that God gave Bart that gift, right? It was sort of through his trials and tribulations, he sort of developed that talent. Do you think we're all born with a purpose? Do you think God sort of, God said, Dennis, you're going to be an actor, and he sort of gave you that gift, and it's our job to sort of develop that? Or do you think we're all trying to figure out what we're supposed to do with our lives?
I think we have a purpose here. God will show you a path. He's pointing right at it, Kingdom of heaven is spread out upon the earth, and man does not see it sometimes. But if you're lucky enough to see that path, you go down that path. It's not easy, especially at first, because you think, oh, here I go, and then, hey man, you mean I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to, oh, don't ask that, and so a lot of people turn back. And I was very lucky that I was in an acting, University of Houston, in Mr. Pickett's class, who a lot of other actors who were known had. But he taught acting. In that first week, I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Amazing.
Very lucky at 18, 19 to have that, because that was the path, and I just went down. And there's so many people that I grew up with, they were still 30 and 35 and still didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives. I really felt for them, but it's a tough thing, you know?
It is. And we can see God's gift, obviously, on screen and what you do in your everyday life. Well, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
God bless you.
I enjoyed it.
Wow, what a night. We just were on the red carpet. We interviewed celebrities, musicians, Scott Hamilton, even Dennis Quaid was here. And after each project or each interview, I like to sit and reflect and sort of think about what I learned from this experience. And I think we all learned faith and forgiveness. Till next time, thank you for walking with us.